Hi guys, this is Christian from firstwebdesigner.com, and as I promised you in my HTML5 and CSS3 articles, I will today help you through this video tutorial create a fully responsive HTML5 CSS3 theme. Before starting, I just want to tell you that there's no way you'll understand much of this tutorial if you didn't read my previous two articles. So please go out there if you didn't and read my HTML5 CSS3 tutorials if you do not have any prior experience with these two coding languages. Otherwise, you will not understand much from this. I created a theme. That's how the idea for this tutorial started. The theme you can see right here. This is what we're going to work with. And it's extremely simple as it gets, because the reason behind this is that I do not want to create complicated stuff to confuse you. I want to create it as simple as possible for you to be able to follow me. That's why I chose a very simple theme which we can work with today. And before jumping into it, I also want to tell you that although in the beginning I thought I will make the theme available for you to download, I decided against it. Although I will make it available at a later point in time. And this is because I think if I make it available for download, you will just gonna download it and you won't learn much about it. The best way to learn is to actually code yourself. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna show you how to create this framework, how to create this web page on your own. And then in a few weeks I will put the theme up for download as well. But until then, you will have time to practice with your own theme and so on. And this theme is actually, my plans are actually for this theme to be an ongoing work, and it will be ongoing work, because after we will create this together, I want to, well, as I promised, you will have some other tutorials about HTML5 CSS3, and I'm gonna add things to this theme, so it is ongoing work. And another thing is that I do not want us today to spend 3 hours on this video tutorial, because there's lots of things that you can do on your own, like styling the theme and so on, and I'm going to allow you to that. But what I'm going to do today and what I'm going to show you how to do is actually how to create the HTML framework for it, and then very basic styling. As you can see, this theme is responsive, and that's what we're going to create today. Well, before starting, just want to mention one more thing. I am a very fast coder, and I'm a very fast OS user, so I use a lot of keyboard shortcuts and so on. If it's at some point in time it gets confusing for you, do not hesitate to ask a question and ask me what I did in comments below, because I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna answer. So let's just jump into it. Well, as I use Coda to code instead of Adobe Dreamweaver or anything else. I like Coda very much. So what I'm gonna start with is duplicate this theme that you just saw here on the desktop, and then go into it. Desktop, yes, and then open both index and style, and erase everything from here. So we have a blank theme to start with, and save it, and you see the preview, it's empty. So what we're gonna start with is actually we're gonna focus on it in the HTML part in the beginning, and then we're gonna take the CSS in the end. And yeah, we're just gonna jump into it and start coding. So let's start with those things in the beginning of the page that basically can just copy from a layout to another one. We're gonna write everything now, and well, you're gonna be able to use these things from now on. So the doc type, as I told you in the tutorial, it's very easy to remember, and yeah, it's just doc type HTML. It's as simple as that. And then you obviously would want to give a language to your web page. That's pretty much for SEO purposes, and then close the HTML tag. I usually like to close the HTML tags as I open them, and then just come back here and add things. After the HTML, it's obviously the head, where we're gonna add different things. Like for example, we're gonna add the title, and let's say the title is gonna be HTML5 CSS3 responsive theme. Close the title, and then after the title we want to add some other basic stuff like meta char sets, which in this case should be UTF-8. Yes, and after meta char sets we want to add we want to link the style sheet, obviously. That's again basic things which you should know about already. My style is called style CSS, and it's in the main folder, in the core folder, and obviously the type of it is going to be text with CSS. Yes, and then this is something that you might have, this might be something new for you, but in order for this in order for this framework, for this grid to be responsive, to work on other devices, you're going to have to add something called meta name viewport. It's just something that tells the browser, well, you have to think of this web page as responsive, and you have to consider it as a responsive theme. And then content is going to be with device width, and then yeah, I usually write here initial scale should be 1. So this is something basic that you're just gonna have to remember, and it's just how it is. Well, that's the header. It's not much to it anymore. So we can just continue with actually creating the body of the web page. As you can see, I'm not messy at all, and I like to use indentation and so on. So I assume it's a good idea to do that, and I advise you to do it because it's gonna help a lot. Not only you, but also if others will gonna come and look at your code, that's gonna help a lot. So use indentation. We want to give a class to this body, and I usually call it body because it's much easier for me to remember. All these names and classes that I'm gonna use today, those are just things that you can just rename in your own way. I'm gonna call them as I'm used to call them, because it just makes the work easier for me. Yes, so we have the body. In the body, if I show you the theme, yeah, let's go here, index HTML. In the body, we're gonna have 3 main containers. We're gonna have the header, which includes the logo and navigation. We're gonna have something called main content, which is this whole container, which contains a smaller, which actually contains 2 smaller areas. It's the content area, and it's the sidebar, or the sidebars. And then the third main area is gonna be obviously the footer. So we're gonna start building this header with logo and navigation, and we're gonna do that from here into using the header tag and give it a class. And I'm gonna call it main header, because you're gonna see I'm not calling the class header because a bit later on we're gonna use some other header tags and might use header there. So this is the main header. I call it like that so you always know it's the main one when you go and style in CSS. And we want to introduce a picture, which is the logo, and I already have it. It's a logo. It's a GIF logo in the core. I think it's in the core, isn't it? Yeah, but we can as well. It's not this one. We can as well move it into images. Yes. So image core. Image logo, and then after the image, you will want to start with navigation. The navigation, instead of calling it like before in HTML 4.0.1, div id equals navigation, now we call it nav. That makes work much easier for us. And then here we close the UL and we close the nav, and then we have the list items, which are pretty much links. Let's see, let's not give them a target right now. Let's call this one home. We close the anchor, we close the list. We can just copy those so we don't have to write them all. again and just rename them. So there you go. We already have the header. That's the header. It's as simple as that. Now after header, we're gonna move into the main content. This one it's a div ID, and I'm gonna call it main content, and then I'm gonna close it right away. And in the main content, as I showed you in the theme, and I can show you again, you have the articles on the left side, the sidebar on the right side, which means that we're gonna start coding the articles first. And you have a class called content, which is the class where all the articles will come in. And in this class called content, we're gonna have an article, right? Because you learned that, well, that's how we represent articles from now on, or content. We represent it by using this new tag called article, and we're going to give it a class, and the class we're going to call it top content. And I do this because we have another article below. We're going to have two articles, and that one is going to call bottom. It's going to be called bottom content. So we close the article here again, and in the article you have another header. In this header, you're gonna have this information. It's the header of the article container. It's not the main header, like this one is. This is the header of the article container. We're gonna have the title here. Let's make it an H2, and obviously it's probably gonna be a link. Yeah, and give it a title. First post, and that should be fine, I think. And say first post, yes, and then we close the headline or the header, yes, and then we also close this header because we are done with that. What you might be surprised about right now is that you can see this information about the article. We're gonna call it footer. We're going to have a new tag for it, like we had a header tag for this information. For this information, we're going to have a footer tag. Now, you might think this is weird because footer for you meant something else from the past HTML. You know, footer was only used for this part, but now it's something else. Now it's used for SEO purposes, because if you put this information in a footer tag, like we are going to do, Google, for example, it's going to interpret it as a footer. And what do we know about a footer? Well, the footer is created to give some extra information. So what Google is going to look at your code, and we're going to see, well, you have this article, and in the article you have a footer tag. Footer tag, right? And Google is gonna think everything that's right here in this tag, in this container, it's some information about the respective content, and that's good for SEO purposes. So we're gonna use the footer, although it's not in the footer, and yeah, it's just a paragraph basically, and we're gonna give it a class called post info because we want to style it, you see, differently than the rest. And then we're gonna say this post is written by Christian. And then close the paragraph, and that's it. And then now it comes the content. The content, we actually have a new tag in HTML5 for it called content. So every time you insert something in this content tag, Google is gonna interpret it as text, as blocks of text, and that's good. That's only good. So we're gonna create this in this content. We're gonna put something, but because I don't want to write too much, I'm just gonna use some lorem ipsum. I know it's cheesy, but I don't have time for that. This has to be a quite fast tutorial. So let's just put it in, and then let's copy it so we have two, and that's it. You already coded half of the page. We already have the articles and then a header. So we have half of the page. Now we need sidebars and footer, and those are also very easy to create. So we get out of this div, because this div, as you can see, here is the main content. Here, main content stops here. See, indentation helps a lot when you need to navigate through your code. And we want to get out of main content, because main content is only for the articles, and we're gonna want to create the sidebars, and they are gonna be some they are gonna be they can be divs, or they can be something called a side, which is a sidebar, and we're gonna give it a class top sidebar, and then close the side again. And why we give it a class is because we have three different sidebars, and we want them to be different maybe at some point in time. So it's a good idea to do that. In this sidebar, you will have different tags, and one of them it's I received an email. I'm sorry for that. One of them it's article, because it's gonna have some content again. Like we had up here. We knew that everything that's in the article is some content. We're gonna call it article. Yeah, and in the article you're gonna say we're gonna have a title. So let's say top sidebar. And close the h2 tag, and then underneath let's have a paragraph with some lorem ipsum. Yes, and now you have the top sidebar. What I want to do is actually copy this 2 times and rename it. Rename this, because pretty much the sidebars will be the same in the HTML, or at least for now. When you don't have any content, you only have some lorem ipsum. Okay, and now what I want to do is create a footer. The footer, you're gonna create the footer by using the footer class, by using the footer tag, obviously, and give it a tag called, or a class, sorry, called main footer, like we called it up here. We called it main content. This one is going to be called main footer, and close it. And then in the footer, we want to have a paragraph which will say copyright, copy first web designer.com, and close the paragraph. And yeah, we might want to add a link here just for the sake of it. With the title is first web designer. And yeah, that's it, guys. We already coded the page in HTML. So let's go and preview it. That's our page right now. You have the HTML code. It's exactly the same code. It's probably exactly the same code as it is here. Most of it is the same. Oh, I don't like that. Now I like it. Yeah, okay. Then we have exactly the same content. Now we need to start and style it. And styling it takes a bit more time, because there are different things you have to take care of. But basically it's not that difficult. So that's the first part of the article, of the tutorial. Sorry, we already coded this HTML page. You see, it's not responsive. It's not. Or actually it is, but it's responsive because, or text is responsive because you used those tags, article and so on, and HTML5 knows what those tags means, and it's responsive from the beginning. But you see, the image is not responsive on the top. So let's get into CSS now. Well, when you start coding in CSS, it's always a good idea to start with some standard tags like body, and I always start with body because I want to give it a background image, and I have this image in a folder that I showed you earlier, and that's how you link it. It's in the folder image, and it's called bg.png. Yes. So you see, now I have a new background. Yes, with more brightness. It's nice. Now we want to give a color to the text, and yeah, let's give it a color called 000305, which is, yeah, well, doesn't change now, but you're gonna notice it a bit later on. when we're going to use background and so on. Okay, font size, another important thing. And in the theme that I coded, I used 87.5%. You might ask me why I code in percents. Well, I code in percents because I wanted to be responsive. I wanted to be. I want this font to be fluid or to be changeable. So I code in percents. And just so you know, base font size is usually 14 pixels. So right now your font size is 87.5% out of 14 pixels. And if you're a math genius, you're gonna be able to know what that is. Font family, yeah, obviously, you have to name your font, and let's just say take something basic. Let's take Arial, and let's take Lucida Sans Unicode. Let's say, Yes, I'm a line height freak, so I'm gonna put a line height of 1.5, and you see already things start to change here. And then you obviously want your text to be aligned to the left, and that's pretty much it. This is a thing that you can just copy and use all over the place. Besides maybe the line height, maybe you don't like that, and you have to modify the font and the font size, and the color and URL and so on. But these things are the things that you probably would want to have in every page. And what you need to do now is go back here and start with all the classes that you have, yeah, we don't have IDs, with all the classes you have. Just take it from the first one. The first class we have is body. So let's go and yeah, style the body. What you want to be, what you want to do with this first is you would like, because this is gonna be in the middle of the page, you would like to give it a margin. 0 auto means that everything will be centered, and you can't see it now because the width of this body is 100%. But this is the trick. Our width is going to be 70% only. So already you see we have a container of 70% width. And you might want to use clear both, although it's not very dangerous in this case not to use it, but you always want to have it there for different purposes. Clear both is, what it does is that it makes your container in such a way that no floating elements will be on the left or on the right side of it. So it's gonna be, there's not gonna be any floating around it. Okay, let's go back. Now we pretty much have the main header. But before the main header, actually it should be here. We should style the links. I always style links. First, it's always a good idea, and I hate text decoration. I hate when the links are underlined. See, they're not anymore now. And we will use a bit later on. We will style some links, and then we will style visited links in different colors. We don't have those colors yet, but we will have them. And then we're also gonna style links that you hover, and then the links that are currently active. Yes, we're gonna leave them like that for now, but you will want to, we will come back to them. As I showed you earlier, main header is the first thing, and what's under main header, it's the image. So we want to style the image, which is our logo. So we want to go here and style the main header image first. And what we want from it is to give it a width of, I don't know, 30%. So it's not going to be that big anymore. And then a height of auto. So it's going to be just automatically adjusting. And we might also want to give it some margin on top and bottom, and then nothing on the side. And what I do that is because if I wouldn't give any margin, this image, I can actually show it to you. It's much better to show it to you. It starts right from the top, and I don't want that because it doesn't look too good. So let's keep it at 2% and 0. Yes, after the main header, the thing that comes afterwards is the navigation. So we're gonna spend some time on the navigation. there are many adjustments to do. So let's just jump into it. Main header navigation we have right now. And what we want from navigation is, if we looked at this theme, we want it to look exactly like that. So we want to give it a background color of the navigation. And the color that you saw there is 666. Yeah, and we will want to give it a height. Let's say 40 pixels. There's no problem that you say pixel now instead of percent. And I'm gonna show you. You're gonna realize why when we're gonna start with media queries, because we're gonna call this height in a different way when we're gonna code for the narrow width screens. So you're gonna see that later on. So for now 40% is fine. And what we're gonna create is we're gonna create some border radius, because you can see here pretty much every container that has a background color has, it's easy to notice that they have the same border radius. That's a border radius of 5 pixels, and we're gonna use that really in the whole layout. What we want to do, just to make sure, it's to copy this twice, and in front of this just put Moz and WebKit. This is for Mozilla, and this first one, and this is so that we are sure that these borders are easy to, or are visible in browsers based on WebKit. Yes, so we have the navigation. See, that's how it looks now. We have this this image. This we have the background color on the navigation. What we want to continue with, it's the main header navigation in UL. As you can see, if you go back here, we started with the main header image, then we continue with main header navigation UL, and afterwards we're going to continue with main header navigation UL LI. So we're just going to continue styling in this way. I think it's a good idea to call it main header with capital H. That was a mistake. I usually do that. Yes, and here too. So let's see what we want from the list, for the unordered list. And what we want to get rid of those bullets in front of it. So it's list style none. Yeah, so we got rid of those right now. And we want to give them a margin of 0 auto. And we're gonna see that it's just gonna fall into place a bit later on. Without it, I can show you. It's a bigger margin here. We don't want that because we want to be able to control all the margins we have. And this margins here is a 2% from the image. You can see it's a 2% bottom and top. It's the same as here. It's the same as here. We don't want another margin here. So that's why we said margin 0 auto here. We're going to continue with the main header UL navigation UL, and now with the list items. And what we want to do is we want them to flow to the left, to push each other to the left, and then we obviously want to display them in line. Yes. That's why it didn't work. Remember that CSS is case sensitive, so this doesn't work if it has a small h, but it works with capital H. Good. Now we have that. They are in line. What we're gonna do now is we want to make them look nicer. Yeah, and we're gonna do that by working a bit with the link basically. So let's say main header navigation and all the links in the navigation, and we also want to do the same for main header navigation, all the visited links. So if they're visited, they should have the same style. Yes, and here we want to make them white instead of the standard blue. We want them to be displayed in line block. just so we're sure that all is displayed in line. I want to give him a height and some padding. So let's just give it first. Let's give it a padding. I want to give a padding of, I don't know, 30 pixels. Bottom top, although it's too much. 20 pixel bottom top, let's say, and 25 pixel left right. Let's see how that looks. I think it's too much, because what we want to achieve is have the links on the in the middle of the navigation. So 20% is too much. Let's try 10%. 10 pixels, sorry. 10 pixel is just fine. And what we want to do as well is to give the links a height, because as you can see right now it's impossible to see the links. You have to give them a height. So let's give it a height. Let's give the links a height of I don't know, 10 pixels. But that's very difficult to observe right now if it's right or not. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna give a height here, but we're gonna come back to it. It's always a good idea when you have something, when you need to come back, just say come back here to assign height. Yes, and we move on. What we move on now is we want to work on the links who you want to hover over them and see a color or something like that. So main header, we also want, it's a class, we also want it to work with the ones that are active. Yes, I think in order to, yeah, I skipped something when we created HTML, because one of the links is obviously active because, well, you're always on one of the page. So let's say we're on home right now and give it a class of active. So we're gonna be able to style the active link, the link you're on right now. Yes. So we will also want to style main header, navigation, and all the links that are that have the class active. We actually want to style the active, class for all the normal links, and then main header, navigation, active for the visited links. So how are we going to style it? Well, first we're going to give it a background color. As you can see, if we go here, they have an orange background color, and we're going to do that background color. That color that you saw is it's an orange, is CF5C3F, if I'm not mistaken. It is. Yes, perfect. And then we want to give the text white color. It is already white, so this is really not necessary. And then get rid of any possible text shadow that this might have. See, it works just fine. The only problem is that it's a bit higher than the actual size of the navigation, so I have to come back here and assign it a height, as we said we will. Let's say 25 pixels. It's too much. Let's say 20. 20 is perfect. That was fast. Another way you can calculate this, because it's pretty much math, is you can go here and see the navigation has 40 pixel height, and then you have a padding of 10 pixel bottom and 10 pixel top, and that leaves the actual height of the link to 20 pixels. So it's pure math. You don't have to be a math genius to that. Another thing that I might want to do is I add some border radius, because I don't like them so straight when they are in a container with the border radius. The good part about this is that we can just copy this, and we're just gonna continue copying this all over the page, because it's exactly the same thing we need. So let's style a main header, navigation, list, UL, li, and a, because we want to style the link. Yes, and let's just add this. We don't need much more than that. It should work. And you see it's already it has these round corners. All of them have. Good. It starts to have a shape. You see, it's nice. Okay. Now, what we want to move on is the main content. You see, after the header, it's the main content we have to move on and to style. So yeah, main content. What we want to do to the main content is yeah, have the borders anyway. Well, I want the borders. You'll not be able to see it because there's no background color. You probably want a line height to it too. Let's say 25 pixels. That's quite good, I think. Good. To the main content, I usually add some other. It's a standard thing that I add. It's overflow hidden, and you see it has a small effect. You can go and read more about overflow hidden on W3C's webpage. But what it basically does is that if two containers happen to be over each other, this overflow hidden controls the behavior of how the browser sees this code, and it does this in such a way that one of these two containers gets clipped, and then what's underneath it's visible. Good. Now we move onto the actual content, which is where we have the articles. So we had main content. Now we move into this class content. And what we want to do with it is give it a width. And we want to give it a width. You might ask why. It's because we want the content to stop around here, because it has to be placed for the sidebars. So we're going to give it a width of 70%. So that's quite about right. And what we want to do is give it a background color, I think. No, actually, we're not going to give it a background color. We're going to keep the background color for a bit later on. We want, obviously, it's very, very important. It needs to float to the left, because otherwise the sidebar will not be able to push this container to the left side, and it's not going to fit in here. So float left all the time, very important. And then we want our borders, which you basically cannot see here. Yeah, they don't have to be here. Okay, have to be a bit later on. Yeah, then you have this top content, and yeah, we'll only have top content here. I forgot to add a second content, because we need two articles. So I'm just gonna do it now. I'm just gonna take this article and copy it. And call it bottom content, second post. Great. So now we have two contents, two articles, sorry. Yes, so we want to style top content and bottom content. They likely need to be styled the same, because they're representing the same. So we style the top content and then just duplicate it and rename it. And here we want to give it a background color, a white. What else we want to do? Well, we obviously want to add, yeah, we want to add the borders to it. Yes, might have to add some margins and paddings, but we're gonna look at that a bit later on. So looks quite right, I think. Top content. Let's copy it and rename it bottom content. So now both articles are like that. Yeah, we will want some padding, because we don't want the text to start like that. So just let's go here and add some padding, and let's say 3% top and yeah, top and bottom, and then let's say 5% in the sides. It should be quite fine. Looks much better, I think. Another thing is that we need to give them a margin, and so to the first post, which is the top content, we're gonna give it a margin top of let's say 2 pixels, and then we want this one as well to have a margin top of 2 pixels. So what we want to do now is take these sidebars and put them into their place where they should actually be, and make them look nice. They are called top sidebar, middle sidebar, and bottom sidebar. And luckily, we just have to style one of them like we did with the content, because they should be the same. And what you want to do is give them a width of, I don't know, let's say 25% from now, and make them float to the left. And let's give them a background color. Let's make them white. And then you just copy this 2 times and then call it middle and bottom. Let's see how it works. It doesn't work. Oh yeah. It's probably because of this overflow hidden. I assume it is. Yeah, it's because that overflow hidden is something standard that I add, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's not useful at all. We're just gonna delete it from here, and that's it. So go up there and delete it. What we want to do right now is add border radius to all these 3. Sorry. So they look like everything else, and we want to give them a margin. Or yeah, pretty much a margin left. Yeah, margin left. We're gonna have to give them like a 5%, which is quite a lot, I think. Let's make this 27% and see what happens if we give them a margin left of 3%. So it happens that you can see it's aligned perfectly. The reason why it's aligned perfectly, it's because we have 27%, which with the margin that is 3%, that's 30. And then you already know that our main content, which is here, is 70%, or our content, sorry, it's 70%. So it adds up to 100. That's why it fits. We also want to give some padding inside. I assume we want it to look nice. So we're gonna give a padding of, let's say 2%, 3%, should be fine. We're not gonna concentrate on styling it right now anyway. And then when you have this padding, you also have to think of the fact that you need to cut from the width. So you have a padding of 6 in total, 3 left, 3 to the right, which means that your total width is gonna be 21%. So now you have it, and then we want some margin to the bottom, to all of them, and let's say margin bottom to 2%. And then we want the first one to have a margin top. And I'm going to show you a trick now, if you didn't know it. I want to have it a margin on top of 2%. Oh, that's not good. It should add up here. But yeah, whatever. We're not gonna work on style right now. What I want to show you, it's something very nice. It's, instead of writing 3 lines of code, I can teach you how to write the same thing in only 1. So we're just gonna say margin, and first I'm gonna write and then I'm gonna explain it. 2%, 0, 2%, 3%. What this represents, these are all the dimensions, all the margins, top, right, bottom, left, clockwise, starting with the top. This is top, this is right, this is bottom, this is left. So you have top 2%, which is this one. You can just delete it from here. You have the bottom, which you have nothing to the right. You don't want margin to the right. You have the bottom, which is 2%. We have it here, so you can delete it. And then you have left, which is here. So there you go. yeah, I don't know why it doesn't add up. But that's something that I would normally figure out after creating this layout. Now we want to go to the footer and style it. So we have main footer, and then we have main footer paragraph. Those are the last two things that that we still have to work on. And the main footer, we would like it to have a width of 100% of its container. We want obviously to flow to the left. We want it to have border radius the same. We want a background color. We want the same background color as the navigation, which, as far as I remember, was 666. And then we want a margin on top of 2%. Let's see how it looks. I think it looks quite fine. And now we're gonna edit the actual paragraph of the main footer, so we make it look nicer. And style the text. And what we want is a width. Let's give it a width of 92% of its parent container, and then a margin of 0 auto because we want it to be centered. Let's see how it looks. That looks just fine, but we don't want a margin of 2%. It was my mistake. We want a margin of, I don't know, let's say 2%. Now it looks better. And another thing that I want is to go to main footer and give it a margin bottom of 2%, because and we have this space here. It gives some space, and these two, as I taught you earlier, can be written in a single line. So let's do that. Margin 2% and 0. That's only in case you want to, instead of calling all the 4 top, bottom, left, right, instead you can call top, bottom, left, right, and combine them like that. So you have top, bottom 2 pixels and left, right 0. Yes, that was not what I was looking for. What else we want to do? Well, we're gonna want to give it a color. We want to make the text white. That's for sure. Go away. Yes, and then the links are still like that. And I told you earlier that we're gonna go back to the links and edit them. So let's go up here to the links, and then give them some colors. Instead of that blue, we want to make them orange, like this kind of orange. So let's go here and say color, and the color was cannot remember it. CF5 C3F, yeah. CF5 C3F. See already they're like that. Which it's a big difference. It looks much better. We also want the same when they are active, and when you hover over them. You see now, when you hover over them, you have like that in the navigation, and that's how I want them to look like here. But right now they do not, because, well, we didn't say that we want a background color. So instead of saying color, this is going to be background color, and the color of the text is going to be white. So when you're going to hover over it, the text gets to be white, because otherwise, obviously, this will happen and you will not be able to read it anymore. So have to make the text white too. And then another thing that we it seems to forgot, and now I just remember, is this footer. If you remember it, we called it footer here, and we called it post info. I think, yeah, it's in the footer. It's in the in a paragraph class called post info. We want to style that, and we want to go right here and style post info. And let's say we're gonna make it italic. So font style italic, yes. And we want to give it a little different color. Let's give it a gray, a 999, for example. And what else we want to make? We want to make them smaller, because from a design point of view, this is helping for a hierarchy. You can see clearly what's more important in this one. You can see that this is the least important, the most important, and quite important. So yeah, I think it looks quite good. 85%, let's say maybe 90% is maybe too small. Yeah, I think that looks good. And there we have it, guys. That's our theme. We might want to go to the footer, and yeah, I'm not very happy about the fact that um, that it has, you know, this has 40 pixels, and that's the footer is bigger than 40 pixels. I do not like that. So let's say height of 40 pixels. Let's see if that works. Yes, and then we have to work a bit with a yeah, with this one. 1% should be fine. Yeah, it's not that good. It's because when you work with pixels and percents, they get a bit confusing. But you can always say a margin of 10 pixels, and it's gonna be right on the center. And again, I did it by math. 10%, 10 pixels up and down. That's 20 in total, and until 40%. Well, until 40 pixels, there's only 20, which is the height of the paragraph. Yeah, that's it, guys. We have it. Let's make it responsive now. How do you do that? Well, as you can see, it's not responsive now. Not responsive enough anyway. It doesn't look too good, I might say. So what we want to do is create this layout, right? So we're gonna put the navigation on top of each other. We're gonna make this image the whole size. We're gonna put sidebars under content, yeah, and we have the footer here. And another thing we want to do is make use of more of the space, because here we only make use of 70% of the space. You see, it's 15% here, 50% here. Here we make use of 90%, because on a narrow screen you want to make use of more. So we're gonna go here and then start with media queries. Well, media queries work quite simple, and I explained it to you in the CSS3 tutorial how they work, I think. So you should know that they're quite easy to implement. And well, we're gonna work now with a width of minimum width of 150 pixels and a max width of, let's say, 600 pixels. Yeah, and then we're gonna do that. I usually keep it like that, so it's everything that comes inside it, it's in the media queries. And basically what you want to do is take this whole code and, you know, transform it. The body is usually the same, so you know that you don't work on that. And the links, I want them to stay the same, because, well, I want the page to be similar. So what we're gonna start with, the body, and we're gonna take it here, and, you know, look at it. Yeah. So I want the body, instead of 70%, to be 90%, as I told you. Now you can already see, if we refresh it, that we make use of more space than it was before. It's only 15% on each side. So that's pretty much the only thing that we wanna do with the body. It's very important to remember that if a variable is not changed, or you do not want to change it, it's quite a bad practice to name it here again. So that's why we pretty much we're gonna delete this, because it's the same. Clear both is the same, so we don't want it. As you can see, if we refresh, it's the same. Nothing happens. So yeah, can always come back here and for example, work on the font size. We might want it to be 90%. It's a bit bigger, as you can see, or 95%, because it's on mobile and you want to read it, or you can actually make it 100%. You know, it's a bit too big. I think 95% it should be fine. Yeah, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, 95% should be fine. Yes, and then we move on. We go back up here. What's the next? Well, it's the main header image. We copy that. We'll bring it here. A width, as I told you, want to make it 100% width because we want the logo to be on a whole width of the container. And then the height and the margins, you do not need them because they're the same. So as you can see, it already looks, the image is the same, right? Now we'll have to work on the navigation. So we're gonna copy everything that's up here called main header nav. So this, all of them, some of them will be deleted at some point in time because we don't need them, but you know, we can copy everything now, so we have everything now, and then we're gonna delete what we don't need. So we have this main header navigation, and what we want to do with it. Well, first we wanna keep the same background, so we delete that. We want to work on the height though. We want to keep the borders too. We delete that. You can see the borders, they remain. The height, we want to make it 4 times as big because we want them to be under each other. So 40 times by 4 is 160. So that's how we want it to look. As you can see here, it looks like that because navigation or the list is actually not in line anymore, not displayed in line anymore. Then we move on main header navigation UL. We want the list style none, so we keep that. What else do we want? Margin 0 auto. We want that too, so we have it. So we don't need to mention it again. But this time we want a padding left of 0 because we want everything to start on the left side, right from the margin. Nav ULLI now, which is this one. We want them to float to the left, and we want them to be displayed in line, which means that we don't need these two. But what we need is that we need a width of 100% because we want the link to be 100%, right? You can see that they are under each other, but there's not enough. We still need to do some things. We want a margin of 0 auto because we want the text to be centered, and then yeah, text align center. Actually, I don't think it's required for this one, is it? No, it's not required. You can actually delete that. So the text align center, that's important. Next line, instead of it display inline block, that's fine. This looks fine. Padding, yeah. Padding might be different. So these two, we're gonna delete them. We don't need them anymore. But the padding might be different. Not by much. And the height is gonna be probably the same, I think. I think we're gonna keep it like that for now. It looks just fine. So let's move it here. Background is the same. We want the same color, text shadow none. So we want to delete that actually. We don't need them anymore at all. See, nothing gets changed. Here you only have some, some border radius. We don't need them anymore. Another thing that we still need to do is, as you see, this is not right. This should be it. On a whole, the link should be as wide as its container. And although it says here that it's 100%, it's not really enough because we forgot to put something. We forgot to go back here and say display. We want to display it as a block, and that's pretty much makes it work as the way we want it to work. Yeah, there we have it. We pretty much have everything right now. So let's in the header. So let's move to main content and content. Let's just copy this for now. Put them here. Yeah, let's start with the main content. It's not much to modify. The main content, you pretty much want it the same. You want the same line height probably, or if we want to work with the line height, we can modify it here. Let's say 30 pixel line height, or 28, whatever. But basically you can just delete this because we're not working on style right now. You can style it yourself. Content, there are some changes here because now we don't want the content to be 70% anymore. We want it to be 100%. we want it to use the whole width of the page, right? The float is to the left. We let's see if I add a margin top, what happens here. Looks much better, I think. Yeah, much better, definitely. Then we want to work with top content and bottom content. But to be honest, there's not much to work with because they look quite okay already. A thing that you want to do is you want to take, so bottom content and top content, they can be deleted, but we're going to keep them because I might want to do something to them. Post info, you remember these things on mobile, you don't really want them because they are information that maybe it's not so important. So what I usually do is just put it display none, and they already disappear, because on mobile you just want to focus on the important things. Why I still wanted to keep this bottom and top content is because I'm not so happy about those margins, and I'm a freak with margins. So let's go here and say margin top. Let's give this one a margin top of 3% instead of 2%, and then to this one also a margin bottom of 3%. Looks much better, I think. None, yeah. Although you could give it 4%. Well, I said I'm not gonna style it right now because we don't have time, so I'm just gonna move on. What we need to do right now is copy the sidebars, and again they will look the same. This shouldn't be here, but here. Yes, so we want to copy these three sidebars into the media queries. And what do we want to modify? It's not much, but we clearly want to give it a width so that they will also use the whole width of the screen. We have to think of the fact that it's not 100% width, as you can see, because we also have these margins and paddings. So what we need to do is give it a width of let's just calculate where we have margins and paddings, and let's add up and see what it gives. We have a 3% on the left side here, so it should be a 97%. Or actually what we could do is keep it to 100%, or we should do, keep it to 100% and give it a 0 margin here. You can see it's already where it should be. Then it's still bigger, but that's because we have this padding, the inside padding of 6%, 2 times 3. So there should be 94%. It should look just fine, and it does. And that's pretty much what we want for anything else, for all of them. We want them to flow to the left, but don't need those anymore. We want them to be the same. That's good. We can actually spare some space by using this, because now they're really the same. Before they had some small differences, but now they're really the same. So we can just spare some, 10 lines of code or something like that, and keep them the same. Great. Regarding the footer, there's not much to modify right now. I'm quite happy with how it looks. So we have 230 lines of code here, and almost 100 here. So with under 330 lines of code, you created this layout. It's done, guys. That's how it looks like. Sure. Again, there are still things that you need to work with, especially style. You see, there are many, pixels here and missing, and not exactly so sharp as I wanted it to be. But I don't have time to spend on that right now. So that's it. It's so easy to actually create a responsive HTML5 CSS3 theme. I hope you found this useful. And as I promised you in the beginning, this is going to be a theme which is going to incorporate some more ongoing work. So I'm not going to make it available for you right now, because I really want you to go out there and code it yourself instead of just copying it or downloading it and just using it right away. We have no problems with you using them, but we want you to learn, because that's our purpose here at First Web Designer. So just go out there and code it yourself. Try to do it yourself. If you have some questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comments in the bottom. And I promise I'm gonna answer as fast as possible. And yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on your feedback to this tutorial. And I promise I'm gonna use your feedback to make the next tutorial better. So please don't hesitate to tell me what you liked about it, and if there were things you didn't like, and if you like me to talk, I don't know, louder, or you want my screen brightness to be lower or whatever. Tell me, because I will want to improve this, and I promise I'll improve it by the next tutorial, which, if I'm not mistaken, it's gonna be about HTML5 contact forms, creating those contact forms. So we're gonna fill in this contact page, and we're gonna make the contact form responsive too. So whenever we go to the contact page on mobile, it's gonna look very nice. That was it, guys. That was for me. I hope you had fun, and I hope you learned something. That's my main purpose for today. That was my main purpose for today. Again, my name is Christian Vasile. I am editor at firstwebdesigner.com, and I'm really looking forward to hear about your feedback.